So I hope everybody is enjoying the session and learning a lot from the sessions that we had this morning. And I'm not sure what time zones are you in, so just good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever. All right, I'll start now. Thanks, Shakir, for inviting me. Um, so the topic for today is migrating SharePoint-based Power Apps to the Dataverse. So a brief introduction about myself. My name is Naveedullah Khan, and I am actually working in Department of Transport in Sydney. I've worked in Pakistan, and I've worked in the Middle East as well. The major expertise that I have is in Office 365, including both SharePoint, Power Platform, and whatever comes with 365. So yeah, that's a brief intro. And the reason actually I chose this topic is that the things are changing. SharePoint has been the choice of data source and choice of business applications development for a lot of different organizations throughout the different years that we have worked for, and it has been the preferred approach for many for using SharePoint to have it as a data source for different business applications, not only the data source but also for development of custom apps and business apps as well. So yeah, I was one of those, and I'm still one of those. I'm actually still pro SharePoint, if you say. But as I said, things are changing, and you have to go with the time. You have to go with the different options that you have got available. So a lot of different clients and a lot of different customers, they are coming to us and asking us about what are the different alternatives available for us to use when we are using Power Apps and when we're using the Power Platform. Um, SharePoint comes as a data source when there are a lot of different constraints with the clients and the customers, be it with budget, be it with storage capacity. If you're just out of experts who can use Power Platform, Dataverse, and other different data sources, because you know that SharePoint is something that we have been learning and everybody has been working with for so many years. I can even say that last 20 years people have been working with SharePoint, when it started with the on-premises data source of SharePoint for document management, for records management, and all those different scenarios where we had to integrate Office applications together. So SharePoint was the preferred choice. But moving forward, sorry, I just all right. So moving forward, we have got a lot of different options available, especially with the Power Platform. That if people who are actually coming close to Power Platform, who are developing applications in Power Platform, people who are the no code source, low code people, citizen developers, and the developers who are actually looking to get into the world of Power Platform, they have got many different choices available. And of course, each choice has got its own pros and cons. We are going to discuss each of them, why we would move from SharePoint to Dataverse or to any other data source whatsoever. We're going to discuss that, but Dataverse, just to have an introduction, was previously called Common Data Service, and it was basically a sort of a platform given by Microsoft. It is a platform given by Microsoft to store the data, which is and it makes it the abstraction of data available for us. We don't have to worry about the type of data, be it relational or non-relational, file storage, or anything that's coming from the Microsoft Data Lake. The Microsoft Power Platform ecosystem basically is reliant on Dataverse, and the data engine is basically Dataverse. Especially if you're talking about Dynamics 365, and if you're talking about model-driven applications that you are developing, I guess Dataverse is the choice for data source in that case. It has also got integration with all the different Power Platform applications like Power BI, PowerApps, Power Automate, and virtual agents, and we can make use of it in all the different sort of Power Platform applications that we are working with. So this is what is being proposed by Microsoft as the preferred choice of data storage of data moving forward. And the reason being that we have discussed a few reasons before as well, and then it's based on the common data model. And what is common data model? Common data model is basically a sort of structured data that has been, you can say it's an open source data model, which defines an architecture where different tables and different entities are related together for different line of business applications as well. So if you are developing a healthcare application, if you are developing a finance application, you can use the common data model as the basic architecture or the baseline data source, which has got a set of standardized set of tables and entities that you can use straight away in your applications. So it actually gives you a lot of flexibility when you are trying to design those applications. The entities or the tables that are available in those in Dataverse or in the common data model are actually very standardized. So you can use like accounts table, customers table, and all those other tables that you are actually utilizing in your CRM or you utilizing in your healthcare or finance or other applications. So that's why Dataverse actually becomes more of having a crucial importance in the Power Platform ecosystem. When we talk about Dataverse, it's basically a set of tables and columns, just like any other relational database. We are used to working with SQL, and we are used to working with other databases. It's not much different, but the only thing that is different is that it's meant for the people who don't have who are novice users or who are just going to create some columns, add some data. They don't have to learn SQL or any other programming language. They can use no code low code systems like PowerApps to retrieve the data, and it has got different connectors available with different systems, so you can use the Dataverse for that as well. Okay, so I think we have discussed a few of this, but yeah, just to mention that Dataverse has got a rich set of metadata and rich set of data types that we didn't used to have in other data sources that we are used to use, like SharePoint, like other data sources. So you talk about data types. You have got text data types. You have got email data types. You have got currency, and you've got so many more rich sort of complex data types as well, where you can use them for your own tables or for designing your own data structure in minutes. So those are readily available for you. And then the relationships also. We have been using SharePoint, and we know that relationships management in SharePoint is not an easy task. Of course, when we come to the slides where we discuss the comparison of SharePoint Dataverse, we'll see that the relationships and the relational data management in SharePoint was a big headache. So this actually is now more easier and made more simpler with Dataverse. So people who don't have much of a database design expertise, they can still go to Dataverse. They can create their own relationships. They can create columns which are related to each other, and there are different types of relationships available as well. The other important point is that it's very easy to manage. As I said, that people who don't have expertise in data management or database management, they can use Dataverse for managing the data, creating columns, creating tables, creating views. And the good thing is that both the data and metadata, they are stored in Dataverse. So you don't have to worry about where the metadata is coming from or where the data is coming from, and it's all readily available for you. So this is the other important aspect. And Security again is very critical aspect of Dataverse. And when we go to the slides again where we discuss about SharePoint versus Dataverse, we will discuss about security as well. But just to mention that security in Dataverse is very robust, it's very flexible, and it's easy to use. So you can use the security infrastructure of Dataverse to create complex security scenarios where you have different teams, where you have different branches, but you can very easily implement those in Dataverse. Then comes another important point, which is the logic and validation, which is very important as developers and as an end users, and low code and no code developers, people who are citizen developers. They know how important it is to have the logic and validation in an app. When you are having fields that have to be filled by the end user, or fields that have to be a specific data type, or fields which are calculated based on other columns. These are all the things that we need when we are actually designing a database. So Dataverse makes it very easy for you. The business rules and the logic and validation can also be built in Dataverse. So that's very critical, because when you are designing an app, you don't have to worry about the business logic and validation. Whether you are using Canvas apps or model-driven apps, or if you are using data in any other component of Power Platform, whether you're using an API to retrieve data from Dataverse, it's all built in. So you don't have to worry about validating the business logic and the different validations that you have. Yes, the Dynamics 365 is actually based on Dataverse. So the Dataverse becomes a crucial component of Dynamics 365 apps. They are all using data from Dynamics 365. And when we discussed about the common data model initially, it is basically those kind of tables and infrastructure that has been provided to us by Microsoft using Dataverse. So when we talk about Dynamics 365, we have to have Dataverse available with us. Then the productivity tools are also an important part. So Microsoft Excel and other tools, office tools or productivity tools that we are using in our day-to-day lives, we can use them for importing and exporting from Dataverse. We can use them for editing the data in Dataverse directly. You can download the Excel add-ins and you can directly edit the data in Excel itself. You don't have to be actually in Dataverse to update the app, update the data, or delete or update the rows. So you can actually use Excel as a business user. They can use Excel as well for the update of the data. Now, when we talk about the decision criteria, why would we like to move from SharePoint to Dataverse? That's a very big question mark. And we will discuss about the different criteria that we have, or whenever we are developing an application, or proposing an application to a customer, or trying to design an application. There are different scenarios that come to our mind, and especially while designing the database or the storage infrastructure for us. It is very important to know that we have got different criteria available, and when we are thinking of that, we'll be, of course, be thinking of all those factors, bringing in all those factors in our mind, what to use, when to use, and these are the 4 or 5 critical questions that we have to ask whenever we are designing a database or when we are designing an application. So the type of data, what kind of data are you going to use? What are the different data types that you are going to use? What is the structure of data? The volume and size of data is very important as well. So you know that right from the start, you might have done capacity planning, and you might know the kind of data that will be embedded in the application initially, and how it grows exponentially over the different months and years that the application is being used, and then the different capabilities of the data source that we are using. Uh, Apart from data, then the application, the clients that are going to use this application, so you have to know how you will surface the data. Are you going to use an app? Are you going to use a custom web part? Is it going to be used on mobile? Is it going to be used in tablets or web application? You have to be considerate of all those factors. Will you be exposing your data to the guests? And by guests, I mean the guests who are in Azure added to your Active Directory as guests. Are you going to expose them this data? What are the capabilities that you are going to expose to them? What are the capabilities that what can they do with the data? So that's one more thing. And then who are the developers? Is the application being developed by citizen developer versus are you going to use a low-code developer or a professional developer for developing the application? So this is an important question as well. Then yes, the storage required, we talked about the volume of data. So when we talk about the volume, we'll have to also see what kind of storage is required and what is the current scenario. So we have, do you have a Dataverse data storage available with you? How much is the volume of or the capacity of your storage in terms of your licensing and everything? So that those are the concerns that you have to be answering at that stage as well. Security is one more consideration, which we'll be discussing in our later slides as well. And then the governance and administration. So who is going to do the governance and administration of the data? How is it being done? Who are the people involved? Do they have the necessary skills to do the administration? If you're using a specific data storage type, who are the people who are going to manage those data structures? So let's come to the first point. We have seen the bullets, but now let's see the first point, which was type of data. So we know that SharePoint is always, we've been using SharePoint and we know that we can use tabular data. SharePoint was primarily meant for document management systems, but then we started using it as, as data storage as well, for tabular data, for images, for large files as well. But we all know that there is a specific limitation with SharePoint when we are talking about relational data. So SharePoint doesn't support it. It does support in a way, but it is not purely naturally relational database. So you have to do some workarounds. You have to do some custom, different lists or middle list where you can store the many-to-many relationships and all those things. You have to use lookup columns and all those things to manage the relations, but then again, it's not purely relational. But with Dataverse, we have got relational data types, we have got complex relationships available, we have got virtual tables that we can use for integrating with external data source. And this is very exciting because I've seen virtual tables being used for integration with different external systems, legacy systems as well, and it's very successful there as well. Then we talk about the data types available in SharePoint. We have got limited set of data types available, but with Dataverse, we can have a list of variable data types that you can use. And we've discussed this initially as well, with all those different email data types, currency, and all those different complex data types that have got their own validations and business logic built in. So you don't have to worry about either the email addresses in the correct format or not, and all those things. With SharePoint, we have got the native SharePoint search, but with Dataverse, it brings up powerful search capabilities from Azure search engine. And the business rules also, we discussed that there are limited business rules in SharePoint when we are storing data in SharePoint. Yeah, we can use the required, whether the field is required or not, whether there is a validation, it's a calculated column or not. But then with Dataverse, we have got a rich set of business rules available. And the good thing is that the business rules are also embedded in the data source. So you don't have to take care of them each time you are designing a different application. So these are all built in, and you can and different rules apply to different types of app. For example, Canvas apps have got different business rules, while model-driven apps have got a rich set of business rules available with them. And we discussed about the common data model as well, which is a very rich data structure or a section of data structure that we can use for legacy applications or line of business applications. And this is Dataverse is having full support for that. In terms of the client support, if you're talking about the apps that are going to use them, SharePoint has got web parts, custom apps, and we can also use Canvas apps and leverage the data from SharePoint. But then with Dataverse, we've got a lot more options. We've got Teams, we have got Power Apps. We can use both Canvas apps and model-driven apps. We can use Power Apps portals and Dynamics and custom code as well. In terms of storage, if you have developed any application using SharePoint as a data source, and the size of the app or the size of the data grows, you might have seen that there are a lot of issues that come up, especially people who have designed the applications long ago, and now they are receiving those issues with the data. There are a lot of delegation issues that come up with SharePoint when you are not correctly managing the types of operators and comparisons and different filters and sorting operation that you are doing. You might end up having a lot of dedication issues, and that might spoil the functionality of your app as well, because you are just retrieving a limited number of rows and you can't have all your data available in the app. With Dataverse, you've got much more storage capacity and a lot less delegation issues. Yes, I can see that it's not 100% delegation averse, but then again, we can still minimize the delegation issues and use a lot of different operators to minimize those issues as well. Also, when we're talking about SharePoint versus Dataverse, so mainly I've seen clients who have got a lot of requirements for data storage. We actually recommend them to go to Dataverse, and Microsoft is also recommending that, because that is a long-term plan for Microsoft, and it is being supported in terms of high storage requirements. Security also be touched based on, but then Dataverse has got much richer security, where with row level security and the business units and teams, you can have record level ownership. You can share the records with the different teams and different users as well, and you can also have hierarchical security as well. In terms of cost, SharePoint, we know that the main reason the SharePoint is being used everywhere as a data storage environment is because of the licenses, and the licenses are readily available with, if you have got M365 licenses, those licenses are actually seated with you. SharePoint connectors are free of cost. They are not premium connectors, so you can directly use PowerApps and design apps. Even the citizen developers, we know that a lot of them are actually using SharePoint with PowerApps to create the applications. So there are no premium connectors that are required, but in case of Dataverse, you have to have a Power Apps per user or per app license, and then you definitely get access to all the premium connectors as well. So let's go to the approaches that are actually there in Power Platform for moving data from SharePoint to Dataverse. And I'll discuss 3 different approaches here, and I'll try to, if we have time, I'll try to give demos of each of them as well. So the first option is the easier one, which is for the business and for the for the low-code developers as well, where you can export and import using Excel. So we all are we all are aware of the export capabilities of SharePoint lists. We can directly go to SharePoint lists and say export to Excel, and it does export very easily, and we have been doing it for quite a long time now. So once we have done that, we have the Excel data available, Excel file available with all the SharePoint list data. We can go to Dataverse in the tables, and we can click on get data and get data from Excel, which actually gives you options of mapping the columns, and we will quickly see that as well in the demo. The second option is Power Automate Flow. So you can create a Power Automate flow where you can use the get items action from SharePoint, getting all the list of different items, and then you click and then you have an action for adding the new row to Dataverse as well. So that's the second approach, and the third approach is the preferred approach, which is the data flows. Data flows are cloud-based technology, which is actually given by Microsoft for different applications. It's not only for Power Apps. It is being used by Power BI already, and it's being used by other applications as well. So this is preferred Power Query transformation technology, which is recommended by Microsoft, and we can use this for importing the data on demand or schedule. We can also schedule the data flows. So it's available for that as well. And we can also import structured the structure of the list, SharePoint list, and the data as well. So you can create from scratch a list using the data flows. All right, so I'll go to the demos now, just quickly so that uh, we can see in action what we have discussed. So the first option that we discussed was import and export. So we know that this is a small SharePoint list that's got 3 employees and the ages and email addresses of those in the department. So we can easily export to Excel, and we can have the file available as an Excel file. And let me call it employees. All right, I already have this one. So this one, sorry, 5 minutes left. Okay, yeah, I'll just be very quick. So so you can open this one, and I think I have to change the files. So this is the employees. This is employees list that we have got available now, and I'll try to import this to Dataverse. The two approaches that we have, the first one is the import export, and the second one is the data flow. So I'll first go to the data flow because that's the recommended one. We're not running out of time. So what I will go is I'll go to the data flow. And with data flow, what you have to do is this is the Power Platform environment, and these are the tables that we have available with with Dataverse. So in order to get the data from SharePoint, there are different options available. So if you go to data and you go to get data, you can see there are 2 options available. The first one is get data only, and the second one is from Excel. So if I click on get data, this is the data flow approach. And you'll see that you have different connectors available. You can retrieve data from everywhere, from virtually anywhere. And then we've got SharePoint online list here. So I'll click on that, and I'll put my SharePoint site URL here. And the connection is already available. But if you don't have connection, you can click on edit connection. It will create a new one for you. So once you do that, it will give you the list of SharePoint lists that are available, and you can select the list that you want to import to Dataverse. And you see that the records are available here. I'll click next. And the good thing about this Power Query is that, and you might have used it in Power BI and other places as well. So so you can just go and transform the data as well. So if you don't, you see that there are a lot of lists available, a lot of columns available here, and that those columns are not required. So we can easily go and click on those columns and remove those columns. Thanks, Linda, for the offer. And yeah, do we have 5 more minutes so that I can complete the demo? And thanks for that. All right, so we're removing the columns which are not required in Dataverse because you know these are SharePoint specific columns. So we are just removing those columns. And thanks. So there's someone who loves Dataverse. All right, so remove the columns. And then we'll leave a lot of other columns as well. So we have title, we've got title, we have got other columns that are age and department and as well. So click on next, and And we can see that now they've got different options available here. So we can create a new table based on the list that we have imported. We can load the data to an existing table which has got the different columns available. And if we don't want to load the data, we can still save it as Power Query, and we don't load the data straight away. So these are the different options available. Now we have got this different mappings for the different columns. The primary name column, you can select one of them here. So I'll select title as a primary name column, or if you want Dataverse to generate a new auto-generated, you can do that as well. But I will use title for the primary name column. You can map the age column, and you can see which types of data is available here. So you can see that in this one, you've got only two options, multi-line text and text. So one thing to consider here is that if you have got data which is in the form of lookup columns or in the form of choice columns, they will be converted to text here. So you have to do something at the back end when you import the data. After that, you have to create go and update those columns or create new columns for that. Source it for those columns that have got choice. So it's all text for now, and I will click on next. So what it does at the back end is that it creates a data flow for us. By data flow, we can say that it's a process. It's a process that is saved in Power Platform, and that process can be run either manually or automatically. So we can say, okay, run it now, or we can schedule it for a specific time, and that refresh will happen at a specific time. For example, if you want to load it at every day, your data is still in SharePoint, but you want to at the end of every day, you can just bring it here in Dataverse. So that is also an option available. So once you publish that, you can go to your data flows, and you'll see that there's a process that is being run. This one, so you can see that it's still in progress. It will take a couple of minutes, and then it will finish. So once that's done, we will have our employees table available in the tables for Dataverse, and we can go and see the data as well here there. So this is published now because this is now not much data available here. So I'll go to the tables and try to find if the employees table is already there or is still being refreshed. So you can see the employees table is here now. And if I click on employees, I can see the different columns have been created here. If I change the view to custom columns, I can see all my custom columns here: age, email, and the title. That was the primary column for us, and the department as well. So all those columns are here. Other columns are basically taken from SharePoint. So if we go to data, this data should be refreshed in a few minutes. What I'll do is I'll go to the data flows again. And I will try to refresh it. Hopefully this time we'll have the employees that are available. Let's see. Yeah, it's there. So we can see that the three employees that we had, and we'll try to see all the columns. So the custom columns that we have, John Smith, age 25, age, and department, and other email addresses are all available here. So this is very easy to import data from SharePoint. And if Shakir allows me, I'll just take one more minute so I can Belinda as well. I'll just show how you can change the connection in the app. Thanks for that. So this is a small PowerApps app, Canvas app that we have created, and this was using that SharePoint list employees for loading the data into this list. But now since we have we have got two-step process. The first step we've already done. The backend data we have already migrated from SharePoint, or if we say we have scheduled the migration every night or every day from SharePoint to Dataverse. The second step is that now in our app, we have to go and change the data source. So we go and we click on the add data, and we can find the Dataverse tables here. So let me search for employees if it's available here. It's not, so refresh it. Let's refresh it. I think it will take some time to appear here. But yeah, just to tell you that the data sources are here, so you can just go. Let me see all the tables if it's available now. No, it's still not coming in. So it will take some time to refresh. Maybe if I save the app and go back and open the app again, it will appear here. So just to tell you that you can easily change the connection here. Once you change the data connection, you will have all the different fields. If the column names are the same, if you see this this gallery, you will see that the column name is name in SharePoint. If you have changed the name in the column name in Dataverse, you'll just go ahead and change the name of the column here, and that's it. So you'll have all the different code and logic, whatever you have done in the app already available. The only thing you need to change, if you've changed the column name, you have to go and change the column name from here in the code, and that's it. So thanks for that, everyone. Thanks especially for Belinda and Shakir for letting me complete it. And this is the conclusion. I hope you enjoyed the session and you learned a lot from it. Shakir, over to you.